All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. And as we are getting closer to the start of a new NFL season, I want to take this time out to talk about things and how I feel things are going to break down this year in the NFC East. Now, of course, two of these teams made the postseason last year. Two teams finished with losing records. And of course, one of those teams that made the postseason would go on to win the Super Bowl. And I'm talking about the Philadelphia Eagles. However, once upon a time, the NFC East was referred to as the glamour division. And, for the most part, it's still there. We're talking about four of the biggest media markets in the NFL. They call this division home. Some of the game's greatest rivalries as well. A lot of history between these teams. And of course, there's really little to no love lost. With all of that said, surprisingly, we have not seen a repeat winner of this division in more than 20 years. You actually got to go back to the Philadelphia Eagles of 2004 to find the last time that we had a repeat winner of the NFC East. And of course, in those days, the Eagles actually won four straight division titles. And that's something that the Eagles, are going to try to do this year, as well as other things that they're looking to do. But nonetheless, they want to try to run it back. Philly, last year they went 14-3 in the regular season. They dominated the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And of course, people are going to say, well, can you do it again? And I think first things first, Philly's got to go out there and take care of their business. You look at head coach Nick Sirianni, and I feel like he's a guy that maybe, just maybe, he's finally going to get the respect that he deserves. I mean, every single year since he's been with Philadelphia, the Eagles have been to the playoffs. Of course, got them to the Super Bowl twice. They won the Super Bowl last year. And I think the biggest thing for Nick Sirianni is to try to keep his finger on the pulse of this team, which is easier said than done after a team wins a championship. But nonetheless, they do have a veteran leadership and a veteran presence in that locker room. One thing the Philly's going to have to do, they got to replace Kellen Moore as their offensive coordinator. I know that Kellen Moore was only in Philly for 1 year, but their offense, for the most part, was poetry in motion. And of course, due to the success that Philadelphia had, especially running the football last year, Kellen Moore is now the new head coach of the New Orleans Saints. So he's been replaced by Kevin Patullo. And Patullo has been on Philadelphia's staff with Nick Sirianni since 2021. So it's not like you're going out there and bringing in an outsider. But again, Philadelphia's bread is going to be buttered by their ground game. We saw what Saquon Barkley did last year. And of course, there are some people who are still skeptical just due to the fact of the wear and tear on running backs. I'll say this. You look at what Derrick Henry's been able to do coming over from the Tennessee Titans to the Baltimore Ravens. We saw what Josh Jacobs did in coming over from the Raiders to the Packers. Saquon Barkley is a guy just like those guys. He takes tremendous care of his body, and as long as you can keep him healthy, it's one of those where I think Saquon has the potential to have another big-time season. One thing I'll say for sure, Jalen Hurts has never been a quarterback who lacks confidence. And I'm not saying that he's cocky. There's a big difference between being cocky and confident. But nonetheless, you go back to last year's Super Bowl when Kansas City basically dared Jalen Hurts to beat them, and he did. And I guarantee you that young man already had confidence. I think even more confidence is going to be in his game this season. I love the balance that Philadelphia has because it's not just about Saquon Barkley running the football. Let's not forget Philadelphia also brought in former Green Bay Packers running back A.J. Dillon. And that's going to be a guy that's going to spell Saquon Barkley. That's going to add more depth to their ground game. And then you look at their receivers with Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown. And it's one of those where One on one, they can both beat you. And then the X factor in things, a guy like Jahan Dotson, the former Washington commander. So I'm looking at this Philly offense, and as long as everybody is on the same page, you still got a veteran offensive line with the likes of Lane Johnson at offensive tackle. Philly's offense can once again be a juggernaut. Now, defensively, and this is one thing, and this is a credit to Howie Roseman. He knows how to be able to draft guys, develop them, and when guys hit free agency, you're able to replace them in that unit. And of course, in recent years, we have seen Philadelphia basically go to Athens, Georgia, and find their fair share of defensive players. So let's see if those youngsters, like a Jordan Davis and a Jalen Carter, are really ready to step up. One thing's for sure, you still got defensive coordinator Vic Fangio, and Fangio knows how to put pressure on opposing quarterbacks. On top of that, we saw the emergence of Cooper DeJean last year. Jeremiah Trotter Jr., I think, is going to be another guy who can emerge on this team. And I think it's all going to come down to Philly being able to take everybody's best punch because, of course, they're the defending champs. And then on top of that, how hungry are they going to be? And will Nick Sirianni be able to keep his finger on the pulse of this team? And I think all of those things will work out in the favor of Philadelphia because I still think that they have something to prove. They get Dallas at home to kick off their season this coming Thursday, rather, at Kansas City in a Super Bowl rematch in week number 2. So the NFL didn't waste any time as far as putting that out there. They've got the Rams at home in week number 3, and there are some people who feel that's their prerogative that had that game not been played in the snow last January, that the Rams would have beaten the Eagles. Week number 10, this game just took on an added meaning. The Eagles are at the Packers, and of course, Philly and Green Bay played twice last year. They began their seasons in Brazil facing each other, and of course, Philadelphia eliminated Green Bay in the wild card round. And nonetheless, of course, with the Micah Parsons trade yesterday, it's an added addition to this contest. Philly really doesn't get a rest in the second half. Right after Green Bay, they host the Detroit Lions, and then week number 16. And this is something I've never really been a fan of as far as the National Football League goes, as far as scheduling division opponents back to back like this. And the reason why I say it, week 16, Philadelphia is at Washington, and then they got Washington at home in week number 18. I'd have loved to have seen it spread out a little bit, but nonetheless, that's what it is. And then sandwiched in between the two games with the Washington Commanders, the Eagles will be on the road in Orchard Park to take on Buffalo. And speaking of those Washington Commanders, and there's a big buzz around this franchise that has not been there for quite some time, okay? The new ownership regime led by Josh Harris plans to return the Commanders to D.C. and, of course, last year's playoff run, as we saw Washington get to the NFC Championship game for the first time since 1991. And, of course, that was the last year that they won the Super Bowl. Nonetheless, Washington's fortunes begin and end with their phenomenal young quarterback in Jayden Daniels. And, of course, Jayden Daniels was a one-man wrecking crew last year as a rookie. So you just have to wonder if he can avoid that dreaded sophomore slump. And the sophomore slump, I think, is not going to be about Jayden Daniels. It's more about teams around the National Football League having a year's worth of game film on him, knowing his tendencies, drafting and signing players to try to go out there and stop him. There's a lot to it, okay? So when it's all said and done, I do think that Daniels does take a slight step back, but it's not going to be a scenario where Washington goes back to being one of the worst teams in the NFL. I don't think so. One issue for Washington, though, for me is their run game. They just traded Brian Robinson to the San Francisco 49ers. And last year, Jayden Daniels was this team's leading rusher. It's really not often too much of a good thing when your quarterback is your team's leading rusher. Sometimes teams can overcome it, okay, in the NFL. Paying wide receiver Terry McLaurin was a no-brainer. As far as I'm concerned, with the Commanders, we have seen what he has meant to this organization for years. Happy that they got it done in training camp. We also saw Washington bring in former San Francisco 49ers wide receiver Debo Samuel. I think Debo is going to be motivated to put, the last couple of years in San Francisco behind him. But it's all about, can he stay healthy? That's the big thing for me. Veteran tight end Zach Ertz. He's 34 years of age, and you just have to wonder, how much does he have left in the tank? And of course, offensively, what is Washington going to get out of their offensive line? Jayden Daniels was sacked 47 times last year. That's not going to get it done. But we did see the Commanders pick up offensive tackle Laramie Tunzel from the Houston Texans, which should help things. I'll tell you like this: the late great George Allen is probably looking at this defense and saying, "You know what? It reminds me of something that I would do," because this Washington defense, in my opinion, is really the over the hill gang. You've got veteran middle linebacker Bobby Wagner. You just brought in veteran cornerback Marshawn Lattimore from the New Orleans Saints. You picked up veteran edge rusher Von Miller to go with the likes of Deron Payne and Frankie Louvu on this defense. But make no mistake about it, Dan Quinn is going to get the most out of this defensive unit and then some. Like I said, there's a buzz around this team, but it's all about, can Jayden Daniels avoid that sophomore slump. Week number 2, we're going to see the Commanders go to Green Bay. Week 8, they're at Kansas City. Week 10, they've got Detroit at home. Week number 13, they get Denver at home. I talked about week 16 and 18, that 2-game set with Philadelphia, which is going to be big as far as deciding who wins the NFC East. And speaking of the NFC East, wow, did I have to change things, okay? We all know about what happened yesterday with the Dallas Cowboys. And I think Dallas is not going to be as strong as some people expected them to be coming into the season. They made the postseason 3 straight years in a row before last year. The bottom fell out, especially after the Dak Prescott injury. And of course, the Cowboys finished with a record of 7-10. Not good enough for the playoffs. After that, Cowboys team owner Jerry Jones decided to move on from head coach Mike McCarthy, who had been there for 5 years. From there, Jones decided to promote offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer to the head coaching position in Dallas. But is that enough to make Cowboy fans feel optimistic? I don't think so. Okay, they're getting Dak Prescott back from the hamstring injury, which is all well and good. But then for the second straight year, Dallas let their leading rusher leave town in free agency. The year before, it was Tony Pollard. This time around, it's Rico Dowdell, who signed with Carolina. So where's Dallas going to get their run game from? You've got C.D. Lamb, okay, who is still one of the top wide receivers in the NFL. They also picked up wide receiver George Pickens from the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Dallas's passing game, I think, is going to be solid. The rest of the offense, question marks. And then, of course, there's questions on the offensive line. Okay, so I think Dallas can pass the ball if you can protect Dak, and I think that has to be a focus point for this team, because Dak is coming off of a hamstring injury, okay, a bad one at that. But nonetheless, looking at this defense, and of course, the Micah Parsons saga is just going to hang over this team all season long. Dallas is bringing in their third different defensive coordinator in as many years. This time around, it's former Bears head coach Matt Eberflus. Last year, of course, it was Mike Zimmer, and then the year before that, it was Dan Quinn before he got the Washington job. But nonetheless, getting Trayvon Diggs back healthy is going to be big for this Cowboys secondary. But nonetheless, Dallas is fighting an uphill battle, and honestly, I would be surprised if the Cowboys do finish with a winning record. And finally, there's the New York Football Giants, and okay, the Giants have really, really been on hard times lately, and it's sad that one of the NFL's oldest franchises and the biggest media market has been operating like this. But since 2017, the Giants have only produced one winning season. While they lost a combined 25 games over the last 2 years alone. Last year, we saw New York go 3-14, and you know that it's gotten bad at the Meadowlands when fans are starting to have planes fly around with banners expressing their disgust. And that's something that Giant fans haven't done since the 1970s. So when it's all said and done, Giants co-owner John Mara decided to stick with general manager Joe Shane and Brian Daboll as his head coach, but for how long? So we don't know if this is going to be the swan song for Shane and Dayball in New York, okay? But to me, I really feel like it's going to come down to whether the Giants show improvement and how much of it that they have. First things first, New York went out and upgraded their quarterback room, which was a necessity. I mean, the Giants last year were 28th in the NFL in passing. Their quarterbacks only threw 15 touchdowns. You play 17 games in the regular season. All right. So you signed veteran quarterback Russell Wilson, and this is going to be the third team that Wilson has played for in as many years. And of course, if you're the Giants, you're hopeful that Wilson can recapture some of the magic that we saw in his prime with the Seattle Seahawks. I'll say this much for Russell Wilson. I don't think Russell Wilson's going to go out there and be great. I think he's going to go out there and try to do what's asked of him. And for the most part, that's what Russell Wilson has done for his entire career. I will say this: Russell Wilson does bring some leadership qualities to the Giants quarterback position that they probably have not had since the days of Eli Manning. They have talent at the skill positions. They just need somebody who can go out there and get them the football. We also saw New York use a first round pick on quarterback Jackson Dart, but honestly, unless Russell Wilson and the Giants are playing really bad this year, I don't see Jackson Dart taking the field at any point this year. He did show a lot of promise in the regular season, but I think the Giants are only going to unwrap him when they have to. New York, their ground game was 23rd in the NFL last year. Let's see if there's going to be some improvement there. And of course, I talked about the Giants offense. You can't talk about the Giants offense and not mention almost a rookie wide receiver, but wide receiver Malik Neighbors, who was looking to build off of that phenomenal rookie year. And of course, Neighbors did that, and he didn't have the best quality quarterback play around him. So what do you think is going to happen now in year number two with some better quarterbacks in that room for New York? But of course, questions continue about the Giants' offensive line. First things first, they've got to keep tackle Andrew Thomas healthy. When he is healthy, this offensive line is a different unit for the Giants. One thing's for sure, I think New York is going to be much improved defensively. They have spent a lot of stock in their pass rush. Let's see if it pays off. Shane Bowen, their defensive coordinator, he's going into his second year there. And of course, there's going to be expectations, being that the Giants used the third overall pick on Abdul Carter. Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns, putting all three of them on the field together, I think is going to be key, because you don't know where the pressure is coming from. Dexter Lawrence at the Pro Bowl defensive tackle continues to be one of the best at his position. And if the Giants, if they can get enough pressure with their front seven, I think that's really going to help out their secondary this year. So you look at the Giants team and you ask yourself, what are their chances of making some noise? I think they will be improved. I'm not going to sit up here and say the Giants are going to be a playoff team. They possibly could, okay? But I think the biggest things for the Giants, you look at their first two games of the season, and of course, their schedule is not the easiest one, okay? We're not going to dance around the floor on that one. But nonetheless, week number one, they're at Washington. Week number two, they're at Dallas. And it's one of those where up until last year, the Giants, for the most part in recent years, have held their own against the Commanders. Can't say the same about Dallas. But if you're the Giants, you only won 3 games last year. And aside from only winning 3 games last year, you didn't win one single game in the division. So now you've got 2 division games on the road right out of the chute. And if you are New York and you can find a way to come out of that 1-1, I think it should be a big shot in the arm for you and your confidence going forward. I think those first 2 games for me are going to be very telling how this Giants season goes. Like I said, I do think they are going to be an improved team. But like I said, for their sake, hopefully they can find a way to, get some momentum early and be able to build off of it. Nonetheless, I still think that this division runs through the Eagles. I know, like I said before, we have not had a repeat winner in the NFC East in more than 20 years, but I think it comes this time around because Philadelphia is still the class of that division. The trade yesterday with sending Micah Parsons to Green Bay, I think that puts Dallas out of the equation. I think Washington will still be in the mix to be a playoff team, but I think they take a slight step back from last year's squad. Remember, they went 12-5 last year, and I think the biggest reason for that is I think, like I said before, teams are going to adjust to Jayden Daniels, and I think Jayden Daniels checks all of the boxes as far as being a great player in the NFL for many years to come. But nonetheless, I think this time around, teams are going to make adjustments on him. Not to say that he's still not going to have a quality year. Not to say that the Commanders cannot be a good team. I just don't think it's they're not going to be 12-5 this year like they were last year. Just my thought on it. Like I said, I think the Giants will be improved as well, but I don't know if it's going to be enough for them to get to the postseason. And then, of course, with Dallas, I expected Dallas to be up and down all season long, and I think yesterday's trade rather was sending Parsons to Green Bay. I'm not sure if Dallas finishes with a winning record, or honestly, I go on record and I don't think Dallas will finish with a winning record. I think that really nobody really saw that result coming. I don't think any of the players for the Dallas Cowboys saw that result coming. And I think that's a gut punch right there, especially due to the fact, like I said yesterday, you traded Micah Parsons and you don't get anything back that can help your team this year. That's the biggest thing for me. But nonetheless, I think Philly's still the class of this division. And until somebody says otherwise, they got to tangle with the champs. And right now, this division goes through Philadelphia. But folks, that's going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. And you know the drill. If you like what you heard and saw, just hit that like button as well as subscribing to this channel. Like I always say, it's greatly appreciated. And as we continue this jaunt through the divisions leading up to the start of a new NFL season, definitely check out this channel tomorrow as I will be talking all things AFC North. If you're on Twitter, now the X, you can check us out at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. And the same goes for Instagram, where you can check me out at 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge. Also, if you're on Facebook, you can check us out at the Sports Depot 365. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. But until next time, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off, and I'm saying thanks once again for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.